Okay, today in 6.5, trapezoids and kites, this is literally like the whole lesson on one slide, okay? We have a drawing over here on the right of an isosceles trapezoid, okay? Doesn't look like one because it's kind of wacky looking, but we're going to use that to understand the parts of a trapezoid. Again, a isosceles trapezoid, okay? So the top and the bottom, those are the bases, okay? I'm not marking those to say that they are congruent to one another. I am just marking them so you understand that those are the bases. Even though this one on the top is not sitting on the ground, which you would normally consider to be a base, it is still considered a base in a trapezoid. Okay, so the bases are the top and the bottom. And then the other sides here, now those are congruent to each other, okay? And those are called the legs, okay? So in an isosceles trapezoid, the legs are congruent to each other, okay? So that's a leg and that's a leg. And the bases are not congruent to each other, but those are just the parts of your isosceles trapezoid, okay? And now theorem 615 says the base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So that leads us right into quick check 1, okay? So again, remembering that the top is a base and the bottom is a base. If this angle down here, angle S, is a 70-degree angle, that means, according to the theorem, that R is also a 70-degree angle, okay? So now P and Q are base angles as well. So P and Q being base angles will also be congruent to each other. Okay, so because this is a four-sided figure, a quadrilateral, all the angles add up to equal 360 degrees. So if angles S and R take up 140 degrees, 360 minus 140 leaves us with 220 degrees that we need to split up between P and Q, because both P and Q have the same measure as each other. So in order for the quadrilateral there to have its angles add up to be 360, both P and Q have to equal 110 degrees each. So when you add all of those angles up together, you get 360 degrees. Okay, so that's theorem 615. Now theorem 616 talks about the diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid. The diagonals, and that is not the quick check 3. That is not the quick check 3. The diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. The other four-sided figure that has congruent diagonals is a rectangle, okay? So much like the rectangle, the isosceles trapezoid diagonals are congruent as well. So if we have this isosceles trapezoid, the legs are congruent, okay? The diagonals are equal in length, okay? Very basic. Now, theorem 617 talks about the diagonals of a kite, and quick check 3 goes along with theorem 617. So much like the diagonals, or exactly like the diagonals of a rhombus, the diagonals of a kite are also perpendicular. So that leads us to quick check 3. So one thing that we need to realize here in a kite, and it's one of the properties of a kite, the two shorter sides of a kite are congruent and to each other, and the two longer sides of the kite are congruent to each other, okay? But what we are given in the drawing for Quick Check 3 is exactly what you see here, okay? So if we're talking about the diagonals of a kite, we know that if they are perpendicular, where they intersect, you get a right angle. So angle 1 is a 90-degree angle. Okay? Now, what's important here about this kite is that this side right here and that side right there are congruent to each other. Okay? So I'm going to pull out those two triangles and draw them like this. So we know that we've got right angles in here as well. So this is the 46-degree angle right here. Okay, that's 46. This is angle 2, and that is angle 3. Now, if both sides here are congruent to each other, that means, let me change colors, that means that this angle right here is exactly the same as that angle right there. Because when we look at this as being a whole triangle, just like that, okay, I'm going to color that in just for now, this whole triangle right here, that's an isosceles triangle because the sides are congruent. Two sides are congruent. So in an isosceles triangle, opposite angles from those congruent sides are also congruent. So that means that this angle right here and angle 3 are exactly the same. Okay? So angle 2 then also has to measure 46 degrees. Okay? So if angle 2 measures 46 degrees, that whole angle at the top there is 46 plus 46, which is 92. Okay, so angle 2 is 46, making the vertex angle of this whole big triangle 92 degrees. Okay, so 180 minus 92 is going to give us 88 degrees left over. Okay, and that 88 degrees has to be split up among these two base angles right here. Okay, so a kite has some properties of an isosceles triangle. Okay, so you've got the two shorter sides are congruent to each other, which means that the opposite angles from those sides are congruent. Okay, very simple, very basic, and that's pretty much it. That's it. Easy enough.